Bonjour.
Sit down, please. Sit down.
Okay, thank you.
Do we wear these?
All right.
If it's another,
Oh, wow. Well, how do you know I don't see?
We put on headphones?
I don't.
So let's start by a very quick introduction of people that don't really need introduction. To my left,
That's actually-
Monsieur Jeffrey Wright. Next to him, Rupert friend. Maya Hawke. Jason Schwartzman. On the other side of the table, Monsieur Bryan Cranston. Stephen Park. Scarlett Johansson. And Monsieur le réalisateur, Wes Anderson.
And the director, Wes Anderson.
All right, guys, I'm gonna open the floor to the question in a few moments, but I would like to ask all the actors here, I mean, for us movie lovers, and I know I'm speaking in the name of kind of everybody in the room, it's a delight to go back into the world of a filmmaker that has a vision that is so particular, that has a vision that is so defined, a style that is so defined as Wes Anderson. It's always, I don't know, the movies are all different, they talk about different things, but it feels familiar, it feels comfortable to find this universe again. What I'm wondering is, how is it for you actors, those who come back and those who are newcomers into this world? How is it to dive into the mind of Monsieur Anderson? Should we start with you, ladies? Maya, Scarlett?
How was it? It's intense. It was intense. Yeah, it's funny because, of course, the world is sort of there. You're in it. You know, the whole environment is created there. It's not. I mean, this was my only experience. So working, you know, as a live actor and not a dog.
Yes.
With Wes, but no, they very much create the whole environment, and it's a physical, tangible, usable space. So it actually, I think, in a way, is almost like it's kind of more like doing theater, because you have the whole tangible space, and it's not, you know, you don't have it's not this familiar process of, you know, being on a sound stage and, you know, going back to your trailer and all this downtime, and then, you know, all that stuff that just eats up the momentum, you know, which is just part of the process. There's not much you can do about it. Somehow Wes has avoided that. And so it feels very vibrant and very much like like you're working in theater. It's very fulfilling and exciting. Yeah.
Maya, you want to add something?
Oh, I mean, I think Scarlett said it so beautifully. The lack of hierarchy and the ensemble that Wes creates on set, in combination with the level of writing, storytelling, and the beauty of the space that you're inside of, just makes it such a pleasure. And it feels like there's no pressure on you, because every part of the world around you works so smoothly between the people that you get to act with and be surrounded by, and the words you get to say. And so you just kind of, the process and the product are aligned so beautifully, and it feels, I don't know, it's just wonderful and at ease, even though it feels like it should be such a high pressure environment because of how high the stakes are.
both really good answers. I think it's a great start. I think.
But this is more difficult because of the visual aspect of the film. I mean, for I don't know, the shot composition is very important for Wes. And does that make the work, I don't know, more demanding, more difficult? Bryan?
It absolutely makes the work very challenging. We have to focus on what we do. To me, it feels like Wes Anderson is a conductor of an orchestra, and all of us are players of our particular instrument, and we hyper-focus on our instrument and just present it without really knowing exactly how it's all going to piece together. And he conducts it, a little less of Bryan, a little more Scarlett at this moment or whatever. So he makes the adjustments as he goes. And like the dialogue in the film, there's a part where Augie goes in and talks to the director and says, I just don't think I understand the play. And he says, well, you don't have to. You just keep telling the story. And that's, I think, in a nutshell, what the film meant to me, is that we go through life, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, how long our lives will be, who will be in our lives, how it'll all play out. We just have to keep telling the story. Just keep moving forward and be a storyteller.
Another good one. That's 3 for 3.
Good night, everybody.
Come back, Bryan, come back. Steven, you want to add something about working with Wes?
Well, Wes shares with the cast before we start filming I can share this moving storyboard, which is the animatic, and Wes voices all the characters in this moving storyboard. And if you saw that storyboard last night, it would have been like equally entertaining and brilliant. It was so amazing to just, and then what he's shooting is exactly what he visioned in the storyboard. So we know going on set exactly what Wes wants, and I don't know how you do it. It's
Well, but I will say that this thing you described is nothing like the movie, because the movie is entirely about what you guys are doing. You're the whole movie is the actors playing these things, and so mine kind of shows my plan.
Yes.
But everything is improvised in a way. The emotions and the expressions and the feeling of it are all coming from the cast.
That's true, but how you voice everybody's characters, though, I would love to see it in the movie theater.
No, we never would do that. We never would.
Release the animatics.
Well, Jeffrey, what can we see on the animatics?
Well, it really is a blueprint, and I think if maybe I'm overstepping, but I think in terms of my insight, but it seems to me that there is there's a specificity, obviously, to Wes's frame, and that can't be improvised on set. You can't just show up and say, okay, maybe there has to be a schematic that exists prior to that, and I think that the cartoons, as Wes refers to them, serves as that. It really is a blueprint and scaffolding and everything that allows him to be able to facilitate the vision on set. So, I mean, everything he does is super interesting. It creates, for example, the way that we all gather together creates community and all of these things. But everything has a purpose relative to the work. And I think, above all else, what he achieves through this process, because we work in one of the most inefficient spaces that exists, what he creates is efficiency, and just sinew, and streamlines it in a way that I love, because he also serves great meals at the end of the day, and you just want to hit it and get back to the wine, So. Bravo. Yeah.
Rupert, how did you react when I asked you to, do you want to be a dancing cowboy?
Well, anytime Wes asks you to do something, for me, it's like there's only a couple of people who have the power to make you believe you can do things that you didn't know you could do. So for me, one of them is Amy Mullins, obviously, to whom I'm married, and the other is Wes. So when he calls and says, and could you do the song live? And I say, well, yes, but I don't play the instrument. I'm not a musician. Then he just asks again, could you do the song live, though? And I say, yes, I can do that. Okay. And so it's a journey, because every time we do something, it's a brand new set of skills. And then getting to work with, so George and Jarvis Cocker and these wonderful musicians, and making this troupe and getting to dance with Maya, dream come true.
Jason, talking about cowboys, this is not your first rodeo with Wes.
Very good.
Hot. Thank you.
Yeah.
How is it the 25th time around? How is it the 25th time around
How was it?
with Wes?
Well, it's always I'm always grateful and always surprised and honored to be there. And even though we work together, the two of us, the group keeps growing of these incredible people that are magnetized to this person. And but just personally, he's the first. I was 17 when we met. He was the first person that wasn't in my family that was over the age of 20 that actually asked me a question and cared what I said, and was curious about what I was interested in, and that was unusual, especially because I was good anyway. But that feeling is why we're all here, because he does want to know about all of us, and he's curious, and he sees things in us sometimes that we don't see. And he always takes the things that he knows, the things he learns, he remembers that he worked, but he never makes it comfortable, I think, for himself. I think there's always a new element, like one new challenge in each thing that is what's gives it the thing to push against.
I don't try to make it uncomfortable.
No. I didn't mean to say that, but I'm just saying you naturally you evolve, you grow, but you take the things that you learn and then you push them in these new places, and it's as a fan of Wes's too. It's like when to talk about music. It's when I hear an album by someone and you hear, on this album they used a harpsichord. This is exciting. They're branching it. They're using it's that you learn about someone through their choice of instruments and the way what the songs they're writing. And as someone who loves this person and as a fan of this person, it's a great way to get to know him and where he's at.
But I had this experience because Jason was so young when we first met and when we first worked together, and he played the role in one of my first films where he was the guy in every single scene. And our experience then was we were using you as you existed in a lot of ways. You had things in common you were different from the character, but you had so much that connected with the character that we could put in it. And then we spent all this time together preparing, and we relied on each other very closely. Yes. In this movie, now all these years later, which is 26,
you don't have to say that.
It's many years, yes, it's longer than I would like to think. We worked as closely together. Jason came with me to the set every day in costume, whether he was in a scene or not. He stayed with me and in it. But I realized at a certain point in the movie that I actually had no idea of the work you'd done, of the preparation you'd done, because I asked you to do a scene that we had not planned to do, and you were not meant to work that day. Suddenly I said, could we go do this, and we'll do it right now? And you said, well, I need an hour because of my stuff. And I realized he had a ritual of tasks that he was doing each day before working that I had no knowledge of, but that in fact I realized in the course of this thing, as I tried to get him to whittle it down to 25 minutes or so, they were absolutely crucial to the character that he was playing, that I was enjoying him play so much. So, and only that to say how totally, in a way, how totally different it is. This person who was a teenager and now has command of his craft and the medium in a way that I wasn't even aware of, in a sense, because I could only see the results.
But it's the same. But letting me do that is the same. Is asking me what I think and listening to me. Like even to let me do that is.
I don't.
Thanks
like
for
to do
asking
that.
me.
I'm
Giving
just
me.
glad you do.
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right, Wes, before I open the floor, I could ask you tons of questions about directing, shot composition, how to work with actors, stuff like that. But what we really want to know is, do you believe in extraterrestrial life?
Me personally?
Yes, you personally.
Well, you know, I think I wouldn't really rely on my opinions about that in any significant way. The research that went into this extraterrestrial, as extensive as it was, it doesn't compare with anything you would find in academia. So I look to, I have read that Stephen Hawking insists it's numerically improbable that there would not be extraterrestrial life, and he certainly knows more than I do about these things, even about numbers. But I don't really.
All right, first question, third row here.
Hi, Shireen Youssef from BBC World Service in London. Congratulations on your film and excellent performance. My question is for Mr. Anderson. So you said before that the film is impacted by the pandemic time, COVID pandemic. We saw lost the characters try to handle their struggles in the film, but you also focus on the struggle and anxieties and fears of the artists themselves in the scenes and behind the scenes. Was it a self-reflection to what happened during the pandemic? And how was directing all these stars in one movie? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that during the real intense part of the COVID period, we were writing the script. So I don't think there would be a quarantine in the story if we weren't experiencing it. But it wasn't deliberate. It's just when you're writing, I feel now that writing is in some ways the most improvisational part of the whole process, because it relies upon a moment of having nothing and having absolutely nothing. And if you don't have something spark, even though you may rework it, which we do, and that always has what's in your life filtering into it, what's in the entire course of your life and what you've read and what's happening right then. So I think it's steeped in it in a way that we didn't control. The making of the movie, however, was still during COVID. There were still COVID protocols and so on, and it really suited us. It worked very well from my point of view. I love for us to form a troupe and stay together, and you sit at a long table and have dinner. And we worked in a large. Our set was enormous in a way. I mean, it was a desert, but it was a closed desert that was there just for these people, this little group of people and a camera in the middle of it somewhere, to play these imaginary scenes. And so I don't want to say it was good for the movie, but we used it in a way that wasn't bad.
All right, great. Question over there. If you don't mind standing up.
Have our noses swabbed
Merci.
Hi, Ellie Mastarou, freelance film critic from Belgium. I have a question for Mr. Anderson, a technical question on the use of slow motion that you have used a lot in your first films as a way of maybe letting the emotion sink in or slowing the pace, like the last shot of Bottle Rocket, Margot Tenenbaum coming out of the bus, or Sam and Susie getting married. And since...
What was that? Oh, excuse me. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, me too. And since that, if I'm not mistaken, you have not really used slow motion. So I was wondering if you could comment on
What
that.
happened to the slow motion?
Regarding the pace of your films and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, I feel like one of the things that is kind of, I have a series of ways I like to stage things and do things that I don't know that if I'm in command of them. It's part of my personality as doing this sort of thing, and I would liken it to handwriting, but that's one of those tools that I've used often, and you know, I think I should look for some spots for that. Bring back the slow-mo. It's always, you know, there's a wonderful thing about when you shoot things. You know how it happens. What happens is you do something and the camera is whirring very, very loud because it's spinning much faster. In order to, you know, you're shooting a lot more frames per second, and it's this, and you're burning through. And if you roll out the camera, you hear it just fly through. You know, it runs out, and it almost sounds like it's going to break the camera if you're shooting at a fast enough frame rate. And while you're doing it, you have absolutely no idea what you're getting. Because you know it's completely transformed when you see it in the dailies, and there's something magical about it, you know. And I think it goes back to like Cocteau or something. I mean, people who used slow motion so long ago and achieved these results that must have startled everyone sitting in cinemas. So I take the note, and I'll do it.
We got a question at the back of the room.
Hi, I'm Judita Da Silva from Arise News, Nigeria. And my question is for Wes Anderson. As a director, you use an audiovisual vernacular that's so particular and so identifiable. In entertainment today, where 90% of the productions that are made are either CGI and superheroes or dragons and women of questionable youth with breasts that are clearly not camera shy, how do you feel that a Wes Anderson is necessary when looking to the next generation and the possibility of another Wes Anderson existing when stylistically the industry is pretty much stagnating?
Well, wow, pretty heavy. I think one thing is when you mention CGI and the technique of, in a way, the atmosphere I want to make for the cast affects it informs the whole way we're going to produce the movie. So a movie like this one, Asteroid City, there are so many things that we could have done in post, and we did them instead in Spain, and it changes the experience of these people playing it, and I mean, when Scarlett said it was like being in a play, to me, that sounds good. I think that's what I'm hoping we get out of it, and that it's worth going to the effort to make a real space. I will say, in addition to this, I am particularly drawn to the old techniques, and I can't say that I've ever said, I wish we did this all on a green screen. It's never crosses my mind. I'd rather, we shoot on film, and the way we work is probably much more similar to the way a movie was made in 1930 than most movies made right now. How that informs somebody young and coming next, I don't know. I think now people have the ability to make so much themselves with very little means, and there are so many techniques that didn't exist when I started making movies, and the way we make movies requires you to have a lot of support. So I don't know, but it depends on what your story is that you're telling and what you need to accomplish to get it, and there's certainly the way of going out into the world and finding it. That's not a digital solution, to go make a movie out in the world. In a way, I don't have a finish to this. That's my rambling in response to your good question. Thank you.
All right, Rodrigo.
Hi, it's a question from Brazil, Rodrigo Fonseca from Chau. Wes, almost 20 years ago, you put Seu Jorge to play David Bowie in Steve Zissou, and now we have this funny cowboy stuff. I would like to hear you tell a few words about his work.
Well, he's someone who I love, and I'd seen him in City of God before we did The Life Aquatic, and then he appeared. we got in touch with him. He said yes, and he came to Italy, and I met him for the first time. And he's as you know, I think a wildly charismatic person, and he's a very kind, warm person. He's also just spectacularly talented. And when we did that movie, we were doing these he reinvented these David Bowie songs, and it was really just entirely up to him. He didn't even know the work. He didn't know most of these songs at all, and he made his versions of them that I think probably you couldn't even do it if you knew them well. I mean, later in the process, I realized he'd been rewriting all the lyrics, and they were saying completely different things from what I thought he was just translating, but no, he wasn't translating. So he's someone who I love, and over the years, I mean, we always keep in touch, and I go see his shows, and I see him in New York, and I see him in Paris, and different places. In this case, we had a chance to put together a group of cowboys. Somehow it just seemed automatic. We'd ask him if he had time, and he did. So it was a pleasure. Then you get the experience of the music that they made together, and just his presence in this group of cowboys, led by Rupert Montana. But the bonus is that every night, maybe he'll bring out the guitar after dinner. And that's a great thing. We had Sal George and Jarvis Cocker, and we had other people in the company who were performing who you wouldn't necessarily expect to. There was music back at the hotel, which was great. Because I think well, like what Jeffrey said, it sort of goes into the movie somehow, what's happening after. Everybody's having, these bonds are formed, and they're there somehow, I think, is my theory.
We got a question right here.
Hello, nice to talk to you. This is Uzbekistan TV, a country which is in the deserts completely, like in your film.
Yes.
And it's hit by asteroid of ecological disaster of the Aral Sea. So there were so many fantastic metaphors everyone captures and takes for its own heart. So my question to Wes, why did you decide to use theater in your film? Do you think that theater can help us to reconstruct our broken world?
Yes, I think I would say yes. The reason to make something, it's one of the, in the Red Shoes, he asks her, "Why do you dance?" And she says, "Why do you live?" I don't know if there's an answer except that. But I think telling stories is so automatic for us, and putting on a play is something, even though I don't put on plays on a real stage, it's something that has always sounded, the excitement of it, of being backstage and having an audience out there waiting to see this thing you've created, is always thrilling to me. The only thing is I've never actually done a play because I'm afraid you have to start, you have to book the theater before you've even started rehearsing. It's going to open on a certain day, whether you like it or not. That concerns me. I like to be able to go back to the cutting room for a little while and just, play with it a bit and, make sure we've got it all just right. Anyway, so I don't know if that addressed your question exactly, but I have a question. Uzbekistan, did you ever see this Polish movie, Pharaoh? Do you know it? Oh, he shot. It's ancient Egypt, but obviously, but he shot quite a bit of it in Uzbekistan. So it's a good desert movie.
Does one of the actors want to add something about the question about theater and how it can reconstruct? Storytelling in general.
This is a movie about a television show doing a story on theater. And I think it's Wes's love letter to performance art, and he wrapped his arms around the three major mediums, I think, that we are involved in.
And the thing the thing I add to that I didn't realize so much until we were making the movie was how much I think the movie is comes out of just me liking to be around actors. The movie is, every single character in the movie is also an actor, and I think most of them are an actor playing a role, if you really think about it. So anyway, which was why also it's, last night watching the movie with our cast was such a good experience for me. I don't normally like to watch one of my movies, but to watch it with the cast, with this story, was, I felt like, I think I understand why we do this.
I think if I can add it seems to me from Wes's perspective, and this is rare, have you acted yourself?
I was in a commercial.
Oh, that's more than I've done. So it seems to me it's unusual for directors, particularly those who haven't, done a lot of acting or any, as many have not, to understand on a detailed level and appreciate and even kind of like wonder at the process. And I think Wes does that. He really digs the process of actors and performance and the entire thing. And I think it kind of, in some ways, distills back and maybe a little bit down to the theater process, of creating characters and storytelling. And I can tell, for whatever odd reason, that interests you. I'm not sure why it interests me, and I do it, but I can tell that it interests you.
I always have felt this thing on a movie set from the first set that I was on, which was my own set. I'd never been on a movie set before I was making a movie. The actors are different from everybody else, different from all the crew, and different from me. They're connected to each other in a way that it's always been a bit mysterious to me, but was especially mysterious to me at the beginning, because first of all, you're going to be the movie, not just you're going to do this stuff. It's going to be you up on the screen, and everyone is just watching to see the tiniest things you do. And somehow that fact, I feel it connects all the actors together. You have an experience that most people just don't have. They don't know what it's like, and they all watch it. It's kind of mesmerizing to me. Anyway, and I love it.
May I ask you, what was the commercial for?
You can look it up. It's American Express.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's quite good. It's on YouTube.
Hello. You can't wake up if you don't fall asleep. First of all, very many thanks for these words, because it was very touching for me. It was very, very deep, and thanks. And based on these words, I want to ask to Miss Scarlett, which part is for you cinema? It's a real life, or it's our dreams?
I'm sorry, can you ask, which part is?
Which part stands the cinema for you? It's our real life cinema,
Which part
yes.
is the cinema,
Which
real
parts?
life or dreams?
Yes, real life or dreams. Or is just running out from real life? Thank you.
Deep. I don't know which part is real life, the cinema or dreams. What does that mean?
Cinema or dreams?
Is cinema dreams for you?
That's good.
I don't know how to answer that question exactly. I mean, I don't know. It's such a strange question. I worked for such a long time that this movie making and acting for film is like it's like an extension of my subconscious consciousness. I mean, I feel probably all actors, I'm guessing, have that feeling where you kind of, it all bleeds together, I guess, for me. I use my dreams for work also, which is something that I started doing a few years ago. I was working with somebody who did a lot of like dream analysis for that purpose, and it was exciting. I liked it too. I mean, I don't know if that answers the question exactly, but yeah, it's such a film and acting for film is such an extension of my whole being, I guess. I've been doing it for so damn long.
Do you know, you remember dreams lucidly, or what you?
Yeah.
Do you write them down or?
Sometimes I text you my dreams. I don't write them down. I think I practiced. I think it's a thing where if you practice remembering your dreams, you get better at it.
Yeah, yes.
Probably.
Because it's a weird thing where you might have a very clear memory and you're now awake and you have the whole thing, but it doesn't stick necessarily. And I think maybe that's the thing, if you train yourself to really...
Yeah.
But the thing I've had in dreams sometimes is the solution to the whole script I'm working on comes in the dream. But
no way.
It doesn't usually work later. So I wake up and that's it. That's
Right.
it. But and I can't really use it.
Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and you have a great idea that comes out of the dream, and then the next day it's slippery and impossible. You're like, what the? That was a terrible idea, or not even a real idea. But in the middle of the night, you're thinking, I figured it out.
Which all must be something to do with the brain, how brains work. That we don't, how much we don't understand how mysterious a brain is. I think.
That's also why, despite what the film says, sometimes it's best just to stay in bed. You know? Leave it there. Solved.
All right. Jason.
Jason Gruber from ThatShelf.com in Canada. Put the bias on the table. I just named a cat named Zissou. So that's sort of where we're at coming from there. Congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
We talk about the symphony, putting the instruments together. Jason, you mentioned the music. I want to talk about your use of music through your cinema, but particularly here, your choice. Here it's mixed much lower, but the songs very much inform the characters. If you could talk about your process from the beginning to now of a mix of needle drops and working with composers, be it Mark or now Alexandra, and as the cast members, if you could talk about, we've seen AI versions now of Star Wars done by Wes Anderson, as if computers are going to replace this auteur. But if you could talk, you've actually lived inside the world of Wes Anderson. If you could talk about what it's like to inhabit the world that he experiences. So if you could talk about the use of music, and if all the performers can talk about what it's like to actually inhabit this incredible world that him and his production designer and all his attendant people actually help construct.
Well, you know, that's a good, the music on this one, it was very sort of, sometimes I've had movies where we plan a lot of music, we're shooting around certain music, and this one, the thing was, we were shooting in a big space with little spaces in the middle of it. And we had open windows, and we had people getting in and out of cars and talking outside. And the space, it's the experience of making the movie, kind of told me what I think it might sound. You might hear something coming from this room over here, and who knows what they're up to. And from the little office over here, there's a radio. And we put a lot of radios and things into the shots. And so so in the cutting room, we just added, we put in song after song. I worked with our music supervisor, who's worked with me since, you know, even, in a way, he even worked on Bottle Rocket, my first movie. He released the soundtrack for it, and Randall Poster. And we listened to lots of, we sort of found a kind of music that we liked of the period. And the odd thing is, many of the songs in the movie are British, English, skiffle versions of American, you know, folk music, of country, American folk music, really. And why that it was the case, I don't know. I mean, the song at the beginning of the movie, Last Train to San Fernando, I think San Fernando was like in a, where is it? Where's San Fernando? Trinidad or something like that. It's not you know, it's not San Fernando, California. It's you know, it comes from, it's an interpretation coming from a completely different mixture of traditions. So anyway, that's a bit how that happened. And then with Alexandre Desplat, he started playing just two notes over and over again, and the whole score of the movie evolved. I mean, you know, there's not loads of score in the movie, but I feel like his inspiration for it gave the movie a shape that it didn't have before we had that to work with.
He's right there, by the way.
Alexandre,
big applause.
There he is.
On this, mesdames et messieurs, I only have one more thing to say. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Merci, merci. Sorry, we only got half the question.
Oh,
Thank you for a gift, for feel. I wasn't doing it, but he was my guiding light. Thank you so much.